Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Film for Impact. Film for Impact is a place where we talk about films, how they can impact society. I believe that stories can literally shift culture, inspire people, and change the world. So we have conversations with industry professionals to help you learn how to make films that make an impact. We dive into our favorite films to analyze why they're so impactful. And on some episodes, you'll get a glimpse into my own life behind the scenes of being a filmmaker and an actor. But today, I am super duper excited to start a special series with you. And I'll be joined today by Dr. Jennifer Noble, who is a psychologist, educator, champion for all marginalized communities and the parents trying to raise their teens within them. She helps families raise confident and resilient mixed race kids through her company. But I'm going to let Jen really take the reins and introduce herself to you.
Well, thanks for having me. You kind of said enough. I am a clinical psychologist. So I have a private practice out here and I do work with all those populations. I do focus on any marginalized group, folks of color, marginalized status, and including mixed race. So it's just, for me, it's important because there's just not a lot of therapists of color, psychologists of color. So I want to be able to make sure I serve the people that need them. And then outside of that, I teach at the college level. And then I have a coaching business where I coach parents with mixed race kids and, kind of try to help them instill confidence and resilience in their little ones. So that's a little bit about me. I mean, that's enough about me, I should say.
Well, I want you to share a little bit about your own background
Oh,
and probably what motivated this type of work.
Oh, yeah. Well, I am mixed race myself. I am African American and Sri Lankan Tamil. And so that's always been a really important part of my identity. And it's, of course, how you and I got connected anyway.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a big part of the behind the scenes of the work I do. Yeah.
I met Jen through another mutual friend who's a filmmaker and also mixed race.
Yeah.
And we had a conversation on the phone, and I was saying, I think I'm heading out to LA for a conference. And she was like, if you need a place to stay, you can stay with me. And it was the first time we had talked. And I was like, I think I will. I think I found a kindred spirit.
Yeah. And now here we are.
Yeah. So it's been really wonderful getting to know you and just I just appreciate you opening your home to me and I got to meet your mom last time I was out there in
Yeah.
LA, which was great. So, yeah. So, I'm really excited today we're going to talk about the film American Fiction, which you may or may not know has recently won an Oscar for best adapted screenplay. Congratulations to Cord Jefferson. So, I just want to let you know there might be some spoilers if you
Mm,
don't so some people don't want to know anything, but I personally like understanding things because it gives you a deeper meaning and a richer experience when you watch the film. So I encourage you to keep listening or watching, depending on what platform you're viewing or listening to. So I'm going to just introduce the film, give you a little bit of the synopsis, and we'll jump right in. So, American Fiction is a 2023 American satirical comedy drama. It's filmed, written, and directed by first time director Cord Jefferson. It's based on a 2001 novel called Erasure by Percival Everett. It follows a frustrated novelist professor who writes an outlandish satire of a stereotypical book, only for it to be mistaken for serious literature by white publishers and published in to high sales and critical praise. It stars the amazing Jeffrey Wright, Tracy Ellis Ross, Issa Rae, Sterling Brown, John Ortiz, Erica Alexander, Leslie Uggams, Adam Brody, and Keith David. It is an all star cast. It premiered at the
yeah.
Toronto International Film Festival. It won People's Choice Award. Amazon MGM Studios came on after Orion to support it. It grossed $23 million. It only took 10 million, less than 10 million to make it. It received numerous accolades. I think the 23 millions in the opening weekend. Named one of the top films of 2023 by the American Film Institute. It received 5 nominations for Best Actor, Best Supporting Actor, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Original Score. The music was amazing. Best Picture at the 96 Academy Awards and won Best Adapted Screenplay. So, congratulations to the cast and
Yeah.
director, everybody, producers. So, I don't want to take too long with the synopsis, just to give you an idea if you haven't really watched it. Thelonious Monk Ellison is played by Jeffrey Wright. He's a writer and a professor in LA. He's struggling with the paradox of academic acclaim for his novels and getting rejected by publishers. He seems to have strong opinions with his students, so he gets placed on temporary leave from his
Mm.
university. He does not shy away from racial issues. He ends up going to a seminar where he meets Sintara, who is a successful writer but writes exactly what he hates.
Yeah.
And while he's home in Boston, he deals with personal tragedies, including his sister's death. His mom's dealing with Alzheimer's. He's frustrated. He becomes so frustrated, he writes a satirical masterpiece called My Pathology.
Mhm.
And that is when it spirals into
Yeah.
this web of deception where he is getting like a deal for $750,000. They want to make a movie. Like it's it's just going the other way, and then he ends up getting invited to judge. I think I can't remember. It's a
Yeah.
really, yeah, a high quality thing and a high quality award, and he becomes a judge because they need to fill their diversity quota
Yes.
basically. So he ends up having to judge his own book that he wrote under an alias, as well as he's working with Sintara, who writes what he hates. And so that's a unique situation. So as we go into this conversation, I want to tell you something that Cord Jefferson said in an Esquire interview was he wanted people to go to this movie with their friends and debate. And
Oh,
so I think that he wants us to talk about this film and to have conversations, and I think this film really lends itself to that.
yeah, it really
So,
does. And
yeah.
I was gonna say his little, Oscar acceptance speech kinda went viral because he talked about, like, give first-time directors a chance and make smaller he's like, "Everything is a risk. A $200 million budget movie is a risk, and so is a $4 million one, so do more of the little ones, and you'll see, like, how much stuff can blow up." So I thought it was a really great speech, and he's actually mixed race himself too. So I thought that was kind of a cool little addition.
Oh, that's
What we talked
amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
That
he's
just
got a
he
sorry, I
Mhm,
was gonna say he's got a white parent and an African American parent, but, I
mhm.
mean, he identifies as a black man, and that's fine. I didn't know that until I was looking up some more stuff about him, and I was like, "Oh, would you look at that?" But
Yeah, how interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, he's so smart and so he makes such great commentary through his
Mhm.
writing. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll go ahead and dive into the conversation.
Yes, let's do it.
We're gonna ask each other questions. That's how we plan this out.
Alright, so why do you think the script resonated so much with people?
Yes, first of all, I think the writing itself was very clever. It was comedic. He always had unexpected turns. And
Yeah.
so in comedy, it's always interesting how you do a setup and you do unexpected turns. For example, when you first meet Sintara, and it seems like this very serious interview with this author, and then she starts reading her book, and it's like, where you going again? I says I'm going to the pharmacy. I says, and she said to me, and Issa Rae is genius. I mean, she
Yeah.
does such a great job. I think the writing between the siblings, it seems so authentic and natural.
Mhm.
For example, when Monk and his brother are in the beach house after their sister's funeral, they're
Mhm.
joking and talking, but then it gets kind of serious when his brother, what's his brother's name again? I can't remember.
Oh gosh.
Sterling plays his brother.
Yes, Sterling's Cliff,
Um,
Cliff.
Cliff, yeah,
Yeah.
Cliff. So Cliff is saying how he got a divorce, and
Yeah.
his wife came home and found him in bed with a man, and he's just talking about his life and how he was mistaken by to be called Tyler Perry at the only gay bar in Tucson. And
Mhm.
then Monk's like, Tyler Perry is not, he lives in Atlanta, doesn't he? And
Right.
it's like he cracks this joke only as a sibling could in
Yeah.
the middle of this thing where you're like, they're gonna blow up and fight. And so I think the authenticity of the relationships between the characters, the humanity
Yeah.
of his life juxtaposed with the absurdness of his career,
Right.
I think people really could resonate with it. And uh, Cord Jefferson, in an interview, he said he wanted a film where it had all the ranges of emotions.
Mm,
That's something he didn't really see, from humanity to struggle to the
mhm.
absurdity. And so I think that's why the script really resonated with a lot of people. How
Yeah.
about you? What would you say?
I mean, I agree with you. I think that the dialogue just seemed really natural, and I think sometimes you forget how much of a skill that is, because you can watch the movies and you're like, who talks like that? Nobody would have that kind of an exchange. But even like you said, the other example when he's driving with, I forgot his sister's name, but
Tracy? Oh no, that's the
yeah,
actress is Tracy Ellis.
right. But with when he's driving with Tracy Ellis Ross, and they're kind of talking about their work and her job and his job, and he kind of is like, yeah, well, you do really good things. I don't know that my work is like has a purpose. And he's like, do you think my books have a purpose? She's like, oh yes, absolutely, my table was like really wobbly and your book was like and he's like, oh, like even his reaction to it, like, ah, okay, my sister's about to be my sister, okay, I get it.
Yeah,
And I thought
totally.
that was like, we all, like you said, that was another turn where we all get to laugh, but then you also see that they kind of give each other this eye of like, I love your work. Like, we don't even need to have this conversation kind of thing. And I really
Mhm.
liked there was a lot of moments like that.
Yeah, and as an artist, I'm listening, I'm like, "Yeah," because my sister's a surgeon, and
Oh,
I'm like, does it even matter? Like, sometimes because she's helping people by surgery, and so when
yeah.
she made that joke about the table being wobbly, I was like, "Yeah." That just like what you're saying, "Yeah, it's just your sister, and of course I love you and support you." And I will add what was really funny, do you remember when he sat down to write my pathology and then the characters kinda became alive?
Yeah.
And then when the thug character was speaking and then looked at Monk and was like, "Okay, now what am I supposed to say?" But he
Yeah.
said it in such a neutral,
Right.
like, "I'm actually an actor," and then he turns around and, like, does this amazing monologue being this ridiculous character, but then he's so into it and so
Yeah.
authentic with it. And I
Yeah.
was like, that actor did a really good job too. And then
Yeah.
but I watched this with my kids and we were just laughing. It was so funny.
Yeah.
So,
It was really good. I even went and got the actual book. I think the book is maybe
Erasure?
maybe the book is called Erasure, and then in there they
Mhm,
talk about, my pathology. I know I was just like, oh, I like this movie so much that I want to read the book that it was based on. So I mean, I
mhm.
haven't started it yet, but I was just like, it was just the whole story. There's so much complexity, but I just really was like, this is such a great little commentary on so many things, you know.
Yeah, I think we could have a long conversation. I would even say the lady that helped take care of his family as he was growing up,
Yeah,
it kind of is a weird throwback to the Mammy character, right?
definitely.
But what's interesting was she got married, and
Hmm.
typically those characters never had children,
Right.
they never got married, they weren't full women,
Yeah.
and I just thought that's a kind of subtle, interesting trope that was broken.
Yeah, they humanized it. Yeah.
Mhm, and
Hmm.
it was so sweet too. And
Hmm.
then the last thing I wanted to mention was, oh, there's so many things, but when his agent gives the example of the Johnny Walker Red
Yeah.
and the Johnny Walker Blue. So after he sells pathology and they have this interest, his eight and Monk is like, no, 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 we're not doing this. His agent pulls out these bottles of, I think, whiskey.
Yeah.
The red is the cheap one, the blue is the more expensive. They're made by the same company, but the cheap one, it allows people to scratch an itch. It fills a void, fills an urge, and it made me think about the Matrix, where you
Mhm.
get the red
Oh,
pill,
yeah.
the blue pill, and the blue pill, he takes it and he continues to think he's in a hallucination in the Matrix. The blue pill is like just you just go on living. The Johnny Walker Blue represented his very good books, but he
Mm-hmm.
could keep on trying to go that direction. But in script writing, it's like, interesting when the character leaves the place they knew before.
Mm,
And so Neo took the red pill, and
right.
that Johnny Walker Red was the beginning of Monk just going down this crazy path with his book. So I
Yeah.
thought that was, a really interesting thing. I don't know if Cord Jefferson did it on purpose, but it just made me think about.
Oh, yeah. I don't know either, but that's a really good comparison. I didn't think about that. I mean, that comparison back to the Matrix, but it makes a lot of sense.
Okay, that's good because I didn't think I was totally out there. But so as we look at Monk's character and all of the things that he has been dealing with in his life, we find out that Monk's father died by suicide.
Mhm.
And throughout the movie, they reference how much Monk was like his father. They seem to reference that his father was very lonely and isolated, and it appears he might have been depressed before dying by suicide. So, Dr. Jen, do you think Monk could have been depressed too, even though his mother does comment on how Monk meets all the criteria for depression, but then he goes on to deny that he's depressed?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's what they're hinting at. That's what I felt. I think it's sort of like, again, like there's so many mini commentaries in the movie, and I feel like this was a mini commentary on how strong stigma around mental health, suffering still is in the Black community, because this is a family where the mom is like, your father literally died by suicide because he was suffering. And I'm telling you, you are sharing the same symptoms, but you want to deny it. Because she kind of even made a joke about it, because she said, oh, you're gaining weight or something. And he was like, oh, I know, or something. And she said, well, you eat when you're sad, and are you okay? And then she said something else about, I forget the other symptom. And he's like, no, mom, I'm fine. She's like, oh, she's like, are you depressed? And then he said, no, no, I'm fine. And she said, oh, okay, you just meet all this criteria for depression, but
Right.
you're not depressed. I mean, and I think he had a moment of like, oh, dang, what's my mom saying? But still, there was no movement on his part to really reflect and be like, oh, am I going through more than what I think? Like, it's not just life. Maybe it's more than, life, because it's been going on for a while. But I mean, we have a lot of evidence of him not being very happy at work, getting into a lot of conflicts with his coworkers and his students. So he's not finding fulfillment there. He doesn't seem to have a lot of social life. He doesn't seem to have, friends. And then he really believes that he's this amazing author that is not getting seen or recognized the way he should. So it's probably a lot of internal turmoil that he's dealing with no real outlet, because he doesn't keep in touch with his brothers. He doesn't talk, or his brother, he doesn't talk with his sister that much about these things. And he's certainly not calling his mom about it. And we never really get to hear how Monk or any of the other siblings are handling how the father died. I mean, that probably was like very devastating, but there's no real discussion amongst the siblings about it. Mom doesn't really bring it up. They're more curious about dad's infidelity than this piece of the puzzle. So to me, I thought it was just layered of like, here he's at least letting the audience know this dude is suffering. He's really not taking care of himself, but also look at how hard it is to do so, because the family is kind of talking about it, but not really. And then you have this big, big moment in the family that no one is wanting to address. And so that's how this thing kind of continues. The suffering continues.
Yeah, that's really interesting now that you're saying all of these pieces and looking back. And I think he mentions he's not sleeping a
Right.
few times in the film. And so,
And
yeah, that's
he's
definite.
drinking a lot. He's drinking a lot by
Mhm.
himself. He's doing a lot of coping skills that are not sustainable and probably have more of a negative impact than anything. And he's not, I mean, if nothing else, when people are depressed, the connection is what helps heal, because you then
Hmm.
can offload your burden to other people, and then it becomes lighter for you, but he is isolating more from everyone. I mean, he even lost his safety of his school because they're like, no, you got to go, like you're not okay.
Do you think that the character that he meets at the beach house, the woman across
Hmm.
the street, kind of serves as that connection a little bit?
I think she serves as like an opportunity for that, but
Mm,
he, as we see, he doesn't quite get that, so he doesn't use her in that way, and then she gets frustrated and she's just like, well,
yeah.
what's happening, why are you shutting me out? So I think he has to kind of learn what he's become more aware of what he's doing and what he's feeling so that he
Mm,
can better use the support around him. But he kind of is thinking, I don't need it, I'm fine. But a lot of the symptoms, I mean, we could just check them off in depression. Even the anger, he's got a lot of anger.
mm.
And at least in the Black community, especially for Black men, you're not going to see the vulnerable sadness. You're not going to see the, oh, you're going to see anger, quiet, isolation, and leave me alone. I don't want to talk about it, you know?
Do you think that when he was writing My Pathology and the father and the son were acting, I mean, even though
I've never thought about that till just
I, because it's coming out in this weird way, but
now.
when you think about it, and he's like, I'm not worthy, you're not worthy, like, so I'm not worthy. And
Yeah.
he, I was listening to the dialogue as I was watching it, and again, and I was like, I wonder if he's in a way working it out and telling us, the audience,
Right. That's
what he
deep.
feels.
I did not think about that. And it makes a lot of sense that that's another little layer in there because throughout the movie, they say multiple times how Monk is like his father, And so that would be I don't even think Monk realized it when he was writing his fake book that these are his own probably feelings about himself and his father. And he was the
Do
favorite, apparently, his
that,
father.
yep, yeah.
Oh,
Do you think that in America, for Black people, marginalized communities, having to balance these identities
yeah.
can be depressive? Because the name of this is American fiction, and the more I thought about it, I was like,
Mhm.
there is this American fiction, this story that's spun about what Black people or marginalized people should be,
Mhm.
and then we have to live in it
Right.
with our own reality, understanding who we are. And it's this always this dual thing. I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
Dubois calls it double consciousness.
Yes.
Do you think that plays in a role into this depressive
I
state he
mean,
may be in?
I think I do think it's burdensome. I do think it's stressful. And I do think if you don't have a way to cope with it, then it can be one of the many factors that then lends itself to like the later development of depression. I don't think it's an easy straight line that quickly because so many groups have to manage this kind of double consciousness. And we develop the coping skills to do so. So if you have the coping skills, maybe the code switching or the support or the safety of a community, that's how withstand it all. And I just
Mhm.
think, if nothing else, yes, it's burdensome to do that, but Monk doesn't have these other things to help offload the burden or to manage the burden. So yeah, that's when it can start to weigh down too much.
Mhm. Speaking of code switching,
Yeah.
he does kind of this opposite this when his book starts taking off and he has to create this character,
Yeah.
Stag Arlie, and he has to it kind of just shows Jeffrey Wright's genius as an actor,
Yeah.
being able to go into this other
Yeah.
character. It to me, it was really hilarious when he was talking to the publisher and his agent was right there, and he was like answering like, yes, it's Jeffrey, and they're like,
They're like, "This is he." That's what he said. "This is
Yeah.
he."
And then he had to code switch. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah, that was I like the way that they showed him doing it as well, because on his face, you could see him being like, and then it still comes out, sounding pretty much like what you might expect from anyone else. But
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, so we're talking about Black men. Let's go to like Black women and women of color. I feel like for you as an artist and a woman of color, what kind of experiences have you had being like pressured into stereotypes, expectations of you, and fitting some sort of, classic box mold?
Yeah, for sure. On my first feature film, I I was about 15 years ago, and I remember being on set, and the director was a white director and literally was like, "I need more attitude." So I just did what I thought what I would do, and
Yeah.
he literally was like, "No, I want this." I was like,
Wow.
"Did I just see that? Did that really happen?"
Hmm.
I didn't do it. I mean, I tried to find a balance between what felt authentic to me because I knew that that wouldn't have been authentic to me.
Right.
I I didn't do that normally.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I could get a little bit, but I didn't want what he was doing
Yeah.
was it was so odd to me. And I've had people say, "I need you to be more black."
Mm.
And I feel, over the years, I do think people understand black looks many different ways.
Yeah.
And throughout the diaspora, there is more than the American stereotype of black. There's
Right.
all the whole world,
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so even as a creator, there's a little bit of this pressure, oh, because you are multi-ethnic,
Mm.
you should focus on this. And that's great, I think, if that's what you feel like you should do. I tend to be really drawn to stories about mental health.
Mm.
And even though I've tried, like I've really tried because it seems like this would, as a business move, to
Uh-huh.
fill a gap in the market in entertainment,
Right. Right.
you should lean towards this thing.
Mm.
But felt that pressure inside, and I really had to stop and say, what do I like?
Mm-hmm.
What do I enjoy? What do I want to create? I'm a black woman that likes sci-fi fantasy.
Right.
And the normal typical thing would make us feel like, big studios may say, well, black women don't watch sci-fi fantasy, so we can't put money into that. And I'm like,
Mm. Right.
that's just what you think. Like there's
Yeah.
plenty of us that like these types of things. And so I've
Exactly.
definitely found the same pressure that was reflected in the film. Like, do I create what would be bought? Or
Mm-hmm.
or do I create what I feel inspired to create as an artist? And then just even as when I'm an actor, how do I perform? How do I breathe life into these characters? And obviously, if I was playing a character that lived a life that had more struggle, or it was in times before in the 1800s, of course I would do what I need to do. But
Mm.
having these people who don't have these lived experiences try to tell me how to perform that lived experience.
Yeah.
Yes, I've had that,
Yeah. It's
but
really hard, like you
yeah.
said, because it's like you are being asked to perpetuate a stereotype, but then at the same time, you want to tell the authentic stories of those groups of people, which then sometimes can cross over into what people sort of expect or have like limited themselves. Like, okay, these are the things that they do. So if your story touches on it, then it's like, oh, see, I told you. So I think it's a hard line to
Yeah.
walk to sort of be like, I want to tell an authentic story about this group and still challenge what you already believe to be true, and
Mhm.
like keep myself away from reinforcing the stereotype as well. So I mean, I think the part about you being actor, more frustrating because I feel like that's just the limited mind of, I don't know, is it the director, I guess, to sort of have a vision of how it should look when it's like attitude is attitude. If the actor can show you attitude, just see that. They probably don't do that to whoever, Angelina Jolie or something. And when they say anger, they're like, show me anger. And then they're like, okay, there's anger. But it's sort of, they need to check themselves a little bit. If a director's like, okay, you're angry, but I need you to be more Latin angry. And person's like, anger is anger. Like, what are you talking about? So
Yeah, and it can be shown in so many ways. It can be shown yelling, it can be
yeah,
whisper, it can be really in the eyes. Like you can do
yeah,
so many things. But yeah, the fighting those stereotypes is definitely something I've experienced as an artist.
mm,
But the more I get to know myself
hmm,
and trust myself and do the work and have the coping skills you talked about and the connection and the support,
yeah,
um, that's been how can stand up and offer a new way to people to think.
hmm,
And yeah, so speaking of stereotypes, we are looking at a family that Cord Jefferson expressed over and over, writing authentic family. And in this black family, there's a coming out story,
yeah.
a queer coming out story with Cliff. And what do you think that Cliff's recent coming out of the closet tells us about the black family and its understanding and acceptance of queer people?
Yeah, I mean, I just felt like this, I guess, sub story or, subplot or whatever you call it
Mhm.
was,
Subplot, you got it.
was, I thought it was so amazing. Like it was just so smart to put it in here because, again, it's subtle enough that it gives you a chance to reflect, but it's not um, approached in such a way that brings out people's defenses where they start to be like, oh well, don't try to tell me anything. It's just if you learn and you empathize with Cliff, played by Sterling K. Brown, then just by default you should have a shift in how you kind of understand groups because there's so many communities where being queer or being LGBTQIA is just like not talked about, not accepted. Depending on where you go, it could be really met with violence and like physical violence, verbal violence, and just outright rejection. And it just, to me, I thought it's so fascinating that here's this Black family that clearly is educated, they're upper income, they're kind of a upstanding family, and probably progressive in some of the things that they're doing in life. But, Cliff grows up in this family realizing there's definitely no place for me to be who I am. Like he, for whatever reason, it was very clear to him, and there was clear expectations too of the family. So he met them, and in order to kind of stay in the good graces of the family, he had to keep this thing quiet. So it really just kind of demonstrated to me how much work still has to be done to kind of allow for the humanity behind some of these experiences. And really challenge some of the views that happen not just within the Black community but within a lot of communities of color where it's being queer or just being having different sexual attraction is viewed as a choice, as a decision, and a poor one at that sort of gets at some sort of either weakness or defiance that you're showing, and you just shouldn't do it. And I felt sad for Cliff, but at the same time you kind of feel happy for him as well because it's like, all right, go live your life. You might
Mhm.
be overcorrecting a little bit. You might you might need to slow down, just be a little bit safer, but also be free. Like I think that's what you get to see.
Yeah, and it's I don't even think I've seen a lot of the coming out process
Hmm.
reflected. So I was listening to a interview and they called it queer adolescence, and it can happen at any age.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite lines is when Monk's calling his brother because the prices of the home they want to put their mother in, and Cliff is in the kitchen and he's having like a party with some other guys, and he's like, I've taken a lover.
Right.
Are you offended because I've taken a lover? And Monk's like, I'm not offended. I'm just offended that you use the words I've taken a lover. And it was so funny
Yeah.
because it was just such a brotherly
Yeah.
kind of comment.
Yeah.
And Sterling played the character with such, I don't know what the word is, but you wanted there was such a depth of emotion
Yeah.
that you almost wanted to like hug him through it. Like
Yeah.
he seemed like yeah, it was a very different portrayal.
Yeah. I thought it was very honest. And I think a lot of people, you probably could find yourself in that character, even if you weren't, even if you didn't
Mhm.
identify as gay, because that same experience could happen in a family where, um, maybe the family was very strictly religious and this one child is kind of like, I don't think this is me. Like I'm not
Yeah.
I'm not at that same level, and so now I'm going to be judged if I don't go as often with all of you, or I'm not doing all the same rituals, and you view me as I've done something wrong, but really I still value all these other things. I just am not believing in that way. Or, even just your choice of marital partner, even if it is still a straight couple, your family could be like, well, we don't like that person or their family. I mean, there's so many versions of being this kind of outcast that Cliff has felt all his life. He felt kind of, we didn't get that much information, but he didn't feel accepted by his mother. I mean, it's clear she's not very accepting of his, sexual identity. But we also don't really get much evidence of how the father interacted with him because he hid himself from his father. But I don't think they were that close either because Monk was the favorite. So there was just a lot of
Mhm.
loneliness, I think, for Cliff's character. And so you get to see that where he's like, okay, I'm finally free, but also I still have a lot of pain that I am not acknowledging or not dealing with.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. It was a lot of pain and they went through a lot.
Was that?
And yeah, in your opinion, what type of black family do we get to see here, and how does it challenge the current stereotypes of the black American family?
Yeah, that's what I liked about this movie because if you if you don't really think about it, you'll miss it. But you have a sister that's a surgeon or a gynecologist, and they do surgeries. You got another brother that's a surgeon. Then you have the main character who has a doctorate and is has a tenured position at a whatever university. It sounds like the mom also, I feel like they said something about teaching, but I could be wrong there. We don't really know what the father did, but he was a type of doctor.
Oh,
Oh, he was
OBGYN.
also okay. I was like, I
Yeah,
knew he was a doctor, but I couldn't. Oh, that's
yeah,
right, because Tracy Ellis Ross says he did these house calls
right.
to women. Yeah. So, I mean, to me, you don't get to see a upper income. I mean, this is a wealthy black family where both parents are together and the three children are like high achieving. I mean, if not, and they have
Mhm.
a summer home on Martha's Vineyard. I mean, these are the things that you don't see often with the kind of black story that Monk was expected to write and know and like live. So it really was a big contrast to himself because he's like, that is so far from my existence. He probably went to private schools and went away for summer trips to Martha's Vineyard and then went on to get his doctorate. And that's a very, very different experience. So I think it's great because there's so many black families like that. It kind of takes me back to all the concerns that people had when the Cosby Show was like in its heyday, because they were like, there's no black families like that. Oh, there's a doctor and a lawyer and they're married and they blah blah blah. And people are like, Even Bill Cosby was just like, of course, there's a lot of families like this, so it's just another version of that, like a more modern version of that, because I think even since then we still don't have a space, at least in entertainment, to say, what about those families? There's a whole bunch of families like that, you know so
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think Cord Jefferson did talk about the Cosby family
Mm,
and that dichotomy, but also the other thing was he wanted some of these harder issues to come out even in this type of family.
right.
And I, it's kind of weird how media has so much power that you people think just because I don't see it, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
When there's millions and millions of people and
Yeah.
just a few TV shows, we don't have full representation. I think it really informed his upbringing, informed that conversation he had with Sintara, played by Issa Rae,
Yes.
when he was judging the the books,
Right.
and they had their conversation, and he asked her, "How is my book not so? How is your book different from the one? Not oh, he didn't say mine. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
He didn't say. He said
How's it different from?
the yeah. How's it different from what he wrote,
Yeah.
which she didn't know he wrote.
Right.
And it was there was a really interesting conversation that they were going back and forth. She said she thought my pathology, which was soulless is what she
Yeah.
used the word. And she had done all this research for her book.
Right.
And so she was kind of representing another reality that
Hmm.
also exists,
Yes.
and he was trying to express another reality that
Hmm.
and writing something that he it wasn't authentic, and he didn't do all the research,
Right.
and it was just really interesting. And the last thing he says was, I think it could be improved, and or there's so much potential.
Potential.
And
Yeah.
she said people who say that think what they see in front of them isn't good enough.
Yeah.
And it was so double edged to me, because did he think he was good enough in a way? Because we saw what he wrote, in pathology, my pathology, saying I'm not worthy. So I don't know if there was, like, as an actor,
Yeah.
I would have read all of the script and been picking out these things to build the character. I
Yeah.
don't know if that's what Jeffrey Wright did. Every actor has their own process, but
Right.
it asked the question.
Yeah.
I don't know if there
I
was a
took
clear
it.
answer.
Well, I took it as, a little indictment on Monk's character, because there's some internalized racism there, and it goes back to that double consciousness thing of like, okay, there's a black that society expects me to be, and probably what he was taught by his wealthy educated family is, don't be that, you're better than that, you could be so much more, you don't have to be this stereotype. So he didn't, and that became a source of pride for him, to be like, I'm not like these people. And then, now you don't buy my books are amazing, but you want me to be this other thing that I think is beneath me. And so that's why he was having this big issue, where he, even with his girlfriend, he really was impressed that she liked his books. But then when she also liked this book, he's like, how could you do that? Like, that's beneath you. Like, that's not a real thing. That's, it's a caricature. And she's sort of like, I'm able to look at everything, I'm able to appreciate all of it. um I also thought it was interesting that he couldn't even see that he's so talented that he was able to write this fake story well. He couldn't appreciate that. But kind of going back to what Sintara said, I do think that that was a moment where he had to question himself and be like, oh, what do I think of the real people that lived the story that I made up? Was I basically judging them, making fun of them, because she's like, I'm not. I'm trying to tell their story, and I just thought that was a really powerful piece, because that is a big, I don't know, debate within the Black community of like, do we value that stereotypical low income African American family that has all those, classic struggles, there's a big divide between the black people that are no longer connected to that. Maybe they're one or two generations away from it, but now they're
Mhm.
just like, I'm not of that anymore, and somehow I'm better, I'm closer to being valued by like white society because I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and I overcame. And then we're not able to help lift each other up because it's like, oh, you're so ghetto, oh, don't talk like that, oh, we don't.
Mhm.
I mean, I've met black families that are afraid to go into certain neighborhoods because they're like, oh, it's so many black people. I'm like, you are like, you're black. You're fine to go in that neighborhood. I mean, they're not gonna attack you just because people came in. I mean, the attitude of like, oh, it's unsafe, it's dangerous, I don't want to go there. I'm like, you have literally bought into what everybody else believes about this group, and you of all people should know a little bit better, you know. So I think that's what they kind of both represented, Sintara and him.
Yeah, it was super deep. And when you're using that word internalized racism,
Yeah.
so I want to ask you as a professional,
Yeah.
okay, if he was to recognize I have internalized racism, what would be the thought process um, for someone who can identify like I'm thinking this way not because I want um, black people to reach their potential, but because I have internalized racism, and
Mm.
instead it's because I think that's lower and I don't want to be associated with that.
Right. What do you do
Is
with it?
that
How do you?
well, is that kind of the thought process
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
the okay.
It's yeah, internalized. It's because you bought into what everybody else said about that group, which is they're lowly, they're, they're simple-minded, they're uneducated, they're dangerous, they're this, they don't know how to, uplift themselves, all that, all those classic things that we do to blame the victim, and then their situation continues and we get a chance to feel like, well, I didn't do that. I
Mm,
got my, I picked myself up by my bootstrap, that kind of thing. So I think recognizing that it would be a painful thing for him to recognize, which is why I think he went silent in that moment, because she got him. Like he probably felt that in the gut, like, what did I say about my own people? Like, whoa, hold on. I don't know how
yeah,
long he stayed there and really reflected, but in that moment, she called him on it because she saw it very clearly.
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, I definitely think this is so layered. It's so layered, and this is such a great conversation.
Yeah.
So I wanted to kind of jump
Okay.
to the end and kind of talk about because of our time, just
Okay.
jump to the end and talk a little bit about the ending of the script.
Okay.
It had such a unique kind of
Yeah.
multi-directional layered ending.
Yeah.
So for those of you who haven't really watched it, at the end, Monk wants to turn that book into a movie, and he goes back to the initial director that wanted to do that with him, and he says, yes, I'm going to do it. And so they're going back and forth about the ending, but meanwhile he's talking about the scene where he won the award for this book, and it's he has like three different endings, and
Right.
one of the endings he gets shot all of a sudden at the end. And
Not even
um
just get shot. He's
oh
supposed to be a fugitive, and so then all
oh
the
yeah,
the FBI the FBI come in and they're like, "You're under arrest," and blah blah blah, and then
because they really think he's Stag our
right,
lead. That's right, that's right.
right. So
So
then he
in
and
that
he's trying to tell them, "No, no, no," and then he kind of waves his award, and of course they think that's the weapon, and so
yeah, so layered
yeah,
and weirdly funny because the whole character he created is what got him the award and got him shot. It was like
right.
you can't win. It was so layered. And
Mm-hmm.
I think so the thing that stood out to me at the very end, he gets in the car, that amazing red car with Cliff,
Mm-hmm.
and drives by this actor in the
Yeah,
back lot dressed as a slave.
yeah,
And the guy looks up at him and he has ear pods in and he goes, "What's
yeah.
that?" And it was like it reminded me of Green Book when
Uh,
Marshall, I think is the piano player's character is driving, like he's wealthy, he's doing well, he's being driven on this tour and he looks out into the fields and sees the slaves.
uh,
And so he's living this one life and he sees the slaves, and it was a similar shot
yeah.
actually to Green Book. And it was interesting because Cord Jefferson mentions how movies like Green Book are the ones that get awards, which
Hmm.
is very ironic because Cord won an award for American Fiction.
Hmm.
So, what an Oscar. But I thought it was like these two worlds. It's like that actor in the slave outfit, it's like he kind of knew what he was
Yeah.
doing. And Jeffrey Wright's character he decided to make this film. So what did you think about all of that?
I mean, I thought, yeah, that last point where he kind of catches eyes with the other actor, maybe that's the idea of like American Fiction right there, because they both are like, we're both living regular lives, regular quote unquote, mainstream life that everybody else is, but here we are telling stories that they want to hear. I'm going to play this character, even though I'm this many years away from this experience. I probably, we don't know what his real life was, but it's probably nothing near this character. And yet he's like, guess I'm going to learn my lines. And then same thing with Monk is like, yeah, I just finished telling a story where I was a fugitive and got, you know, killed for no reason at an award show. And that's what they're going to go with. And the whole time he was trying to buck the system, but he just became a part of it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's so interesting because even Jeffrey Wright as an actor, he had to go through what he had to go through playing these small roles, but killing it every time.
Mm-hmm.
He is amazing, and then he gets this role where he's the lead in it, and
Yeah.
I guess that's why Cord Jefferson was like, "I want you all to go with your friends and see this and talk about it and debate it
Yeah.
because it's so much in there."
And they did
But
have a little bit of a dig too, because Tyler Perry is often debated within the Black community too. And he got mentioned twice in this movie. Once because it's I won't say a racist town, but predominantly white environment that hasn't seen many black people. And so they assume that, Cliff was Tyler Perry. Um, but then later at the end, they make another little dig at Tyler Perry too. And I couldn't help but think like, of all the people they could have said, they picked the one industry person that is very polarizing for black people specifically. Like as big as he is, you find a whole crew that is like, I am anti everything. Tyler, like almost like that hint was because Tyler is sometimes doing American Fiction. He's telling stories that a lot of black people are like, what is this? That's Stop doing that. Stop making us look that way. And Tyler Perry says, but this is my reality, and it
yeah,
blows up. So I was like, yeah, I didn't miss that little Tyler Perry mention in there.
that's actually a really good observation because on one hand, I remember being like, I don't really resonate with these stories, but I can't deny on the business side what's going on.
Yeah.
Like he kind of pioneered a few things in TV
Hmm.
on the business side, and
Hmm.
it's a great it's a great person to use in this film as we're debating these
Yeah,
things.
exactly.
So, because that's not his experience anymore.
Right, right, right.
He's doing quite well
Exactly.
financially.
Yeah, he's a
But
mogul, right? Exactly.
yeah. But Jen, this has been a wonderful conversation. I'm super glad that we got to have this conversation.
Yay.
You guys, we are going to have more. This isn't the end. We are going to do a series. We are going to be talking about our favorite films. Um, if you have films that you want us to talk about,
Yeah.
please don't hesitate to reach out. Look in the show notes. You can find out how you can reach out with movie ideas. But yeah, join us next time on Film for Impact, and we'll see you then. Thanks.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.